Welcome to heCast, the official podcast of HeChangedIt. My name is Mike Chisholm. I am extremely excited to be here. I have been a card-carrying member of, this is my favorite time of the week, and I'm going to stay a member of that group. I love doing these podcasts. I love having these conversations. I love seeing where HeChangedIt has come from when it was a concept and an idea that my wife had, and watched what it's evolved into now, what it's evolving into. So excited to be doing the fun stuff, hosting a podcast, all in the area of, what are we calling it now? Men's performance, a men's performance app, a men's total performance app. And we talk about mental wellness. We talk about physical stuff. We talk about all sorts of things that men are going through in the 2020s. And it's an interesting culture that we live. So if you haven't downloaded HeChangedIt yet, we invite you to download it on your Google device, on your Apple device. Download HeChangedIt, see what it's all about as the road of this superhighway is being built. And then also for the podcast, for heCast, if you like what you see or hear, please subscribe, please share, and let's promote the heck out of this thing and really, really do something fun with this concept that is HeChangedIt. I am very excited. You know, it's funny. Whenever I do one of these things, I talk about how, I'm always really excited when I do this, but I'm really excited for today's guest. And it's funny that you listen to me say that, and it's the truth every single time I say it. And today is no different. I'm really excited for today's guest. Today's guest is a friend of mine, a recent friend of mine, who is just, I don't use the term brother from another mother very often, but this is one of those guys. We bonded very early. We bonded over hockey. Then we bonded over the TV show Yellowstone. If you're a Yellowstone fan, jump into the HeChangedIt, into the heCast room, and we can talk about Yellowstone all you like. I met Carl because of a former guest that we had on here, one of my best friends, Alex Draper, who works with the Kelowna Chiefs. And he said, hey, we've got this really interesting assistant coach, and didn't even realize how right he was, because when I met Carl and I started exploring and we started getting to know each other and I learned his story, and I mean, we're talking a very cool, very unique story about a guy from Denver who ended up coaching junior hockey in Canada and much, much, much more. It's an onion with many layers, and he is really, really generous in the sense of giving us his time, giving us his vulnerability, where we can talk a little bit about his story, what's brought him here. We've got the podcast with Ryan Stresnitzky from the Humboldt Broncos coming out. Guess what? It was Carl, and maybe it'll even be out by the time this broadcast goes out. Carl was the one that set up that intro. With Garrett Kuchar from the pro golfer. Carl is the guy who set that intro up and set up that relationship. One thing about Carl is that he has fallen in love with what HeChangedIt is doing. And I'm really excited that he is letting me exploit our friendship a little bit and opening up his personal vault to help other guys. Carl Poole, thank you for taking time to be part of this finally, right?
Yep. It's been a long time coming. That's a great intro to me there. Appreciate that. And thank you for having me. It's awesome to finally be here with you.
It's from the heart. We're going to get to your story here in a second. Born in Denver, and you end up here in Canada and are going to become one of them dualies, or at least you're going to have a permanent residence up here, and you're in the process of getting that going. Yeah. Before we get to that, we bonded over HeChangedIt. Like when we met and you found out about what HeChangedIt is doing, you were immediately compelled to that. You're a coach. Yeah. I mean, you coach athletics and things, but we all know that when you're coaching, a big part of that is mindset. Is that what attracted you to HeChangedIt, or is it more something in your personal story? What is it that you love about what HeChangedIt is doing?
Well, the fact that it's one of the first of its kind really attracted me at first. And I've been around the game for 10 years in a couple of different capacities. And I've seen a lot of the mental challenges that go on with athletes
yeah.
and players' minds. And you always want to be able to help as much as you can with that.
Yeah.
And that falls into what a lot of my philosophy has come to be, is what happens outside of the rink. What's going on off the ice, upstairs.
Yeah.
And making sure that, the kids that in the past might have, or the players in the past who might have been, kind of left behind, so to speak, they're able to have those opportunities to talk to somebody now. And I think an app like HeChangedIt, or a program like HeChangedIt, is going to be crucial to changing the entire landscape when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking about it on a micro level with hockey, but really isn't life like that? Like, aren't we all just playing? Isn't life a big game?
100%. It applies to every sport. It applies to life in general. I think, in my experience, having worked in junior hockey, those are very formative years for any young man.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they show up as 15 or 16-year-olds. So they really show up as boys. And by the time they're done, they're 20.
Yep.
So they're men.
Yep.
So there's a lot that happens during those 4 to 5 years. And there's a lot that can go wrong, and there's a lot that can go right if they're seeking help, if they need it, or if in certain cases they have the right people in their lives that are willing to go out of their way and, be there when they need those coaching figures, and, they need the advice that maybe wasn't available before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're a great listener. Have you always been that way?
well,
Obviously, you got to take that into coaching. You got to be a good listener, right?
That's actually that's funny you bring that up. So I'm the youngest of 3 brothers.
Yeah.
So naturally, I was kind of the quiet one growing up.
A lot of noise around you.
But it wasn't. I don't think it was so much because I couldn't really get my voice out there. It was because I was listening. So I was listening to what was going on and learning. So it's easy for me to sit down with somebody and, listen to what's going on in their life, and not necessarily bring it back, to what's going on with me, but keep it about them and try to listen to them and not make it about me and explain, my life story or anything like that, to try and relate to them, try and empathize with them first, and then see how you can be helpful.
Are you able to do that in romantic relationships? Does it translate? Because you have just explained a skill that I think most husbands or boyfriends out there would be really, really good for relationships. If we could just not make it about me, just listen to what they're saying and process.
Sometimes it translates over. Sometimes, not always. I don't think anybody's perfect in that regard. But
no, heavens, the struggle is real.
No, but I don't know. I find it easy to talk to and then especially listen and really process what's going on with somebody else. Like, really try to listen and comprehend what they're going through. Well,
you certainly, that is certainly something that you did when you first met Candy and I, and we talked about what it is we're building here and all that. And so that is a skill that serves in all sorts of ways.
Right.
I want to talk a little bit about your upbringing, because everybody's got a unique story, of course.
100%.
And I just am fascinated by yours. I mentioned in the intro, the onion that is Carl Poole. And you are an onion in so many ways. I want to talk about your dad. You lost your dad at an early age, a little bit. And I want to talk about what that did for you. And we can go, maybe we start there. Like, how old were you when you lost your dad? And how old was he at the time?
So I was 4.
Yeah.
So definitely a tough age to really comprehend what death means.
And you lost him to natural causes, right?
Yeah. It was a series of strokes that they were not able to identify. And this is back in the early 90s. So the whole procedure that they apply to somebody having a stroke now is night and day to what it was then.
Wow.
So it was an unfortunate situation because they didn't identify them, whereas in this day and age, they would have been able to probably save his life. Okay. So it's just, it is what it is. But he was, I believe, in his early 30s. I'm not sure if he was 33 or 34. I could be off by a few years.
Sure.
But like I said, I was so young at the time, and it's been such a long time. I'm now 30 myself. So it's been roughly 30 years since that happened to me.
Is there cognizance there? Like, have you ever thought, oh, I'm getting close to the age where...
Definitely. Yeah. You think about it. It's always in the back of my mind, but not really in a negative way. He, as great of a man as he was, he didn't probably take as good a care of himself as he could have.
Okay.
So, I'm not saying it's anybody's fault or anything that, but it's something that I think about. So I try to stay as active as I can.
Yeah.
Try to eat well when I can, and, try to take good supplementation, that sort of stuff. And, I don't think that's anything that he ever really did.
Yeah.
And maybe there was just lack of information back then, but, just about the importance of that sort of thing. But yeah, it's definitely in the back of my mind. And I know my brothers probably think about it as well, because they're 4 and 6 years older than me.
Yep.
So I'm sure they've thought about it, and I know they try to stay as healthy as possible because they have young children, and, they want to be there for their kids. So, but yeah, there's a spot in the back of my mind that's kind of always aware of that.
Do you, are you able to identify what changed 4-year-old Carl when that happened? Like, did you have a different concept when it came to death than the people around you, for example? I think that's an obvious one, but, how it affected you back then? I mean, we talk about childhood trauma, and childhood trauma is childhood trauma. We deal with it. We all deal with whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yours obviously was, for lack of a better term, more traumatic than maybe the average is.
Sure. So, I mean, as a 4-year-old, and I think every kid is different, but from what I remember, I didn't think it was real. Like, it didn't really, I wasn't able to process it.
I gotcha.
Just because when you're 4, you don't think about that kind of stuff.
Right.
Your brain's still developing.
Yeah. And
those types of concepts don't really make sense.
Yes.
When you're a 4-year-old. And, we can jump down the rabbit hole here a bit. What actually happened, and this is from a child psychiatrist that I ended up seeing later, a couple years later, what they discovered is that when that happened to me, it was so much of a stunt,
a block,
like so much of a block.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. That it kind of stopped my mental development. So,
wow.
I ended up seeing a child psychiatrist for, can't remember for how long. It might've been for 2 or 3 months.
Yep.
And the approach that this guy took was to have me, go over to his house for like an hour or whatever. And he had like this great big sandbox, which I thought was great at the age of 6, had all these different toys and whatnot. And he'd have me build all these different like sandscapes and like play in this sandbox. But I'm not sure, what he would be talking to me about during that time. Can't remember that part.
So you guys would converse while we would talk, playing in the sandbox.
We would talk, but what he described to my mom later, once I was done, is that I was able to say goodbye to my dad through play, like through playing. So
wow,
it got pretty deep on that level. I didn't really realize what was going on. I just thought, hey, I'm going to hang out with this guy, and he's, as far as I know, he's a babysitter. He's got a cool sandbox with cool toys, and I get to build sandcastles and all this stuff. But he would take a picture of everything I created. And I think through that process, and I don't have all the details on it, but I think through that process, what I was told is that I was able to say goodbye to my dad and let him go at a young age, and then start, get back on track as
mental development and all that stuff. You're back on track, literally.
As a 6-year-old.
Yeah. You were off the road for a little while, and that put you back on the road.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting how, and it's funny how sometimes in life we have these blocks.
Yep.
And sometimes they disappear without us even realizing it, because maybe we have just negotiated through whatever process we needed to negotiate through.
Yeah.
Or we are cognizant of it.
Right.
And it's really neat how back then you weren't, but now you're able to kind of look back on it and go, yeah, that was a block, but now
it makes sense.
Yeah. It makes sense.
But I never knew that until my mom told me that. So, and she didn't tell me that long ago, like within the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting tidbit of information that I didn't really have. But then when I thought about it more, it made a lot of sense.
Wow.
So.
Are you and your mom still really close?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been, I don't know, 6-7 months since I saw her last, so that's been hard.
Yeah, so you're a stranger in a strange land. Not so much. You've got multiple homes now. Essentially, is the way we're looking at it. Because born and raised Denver.
Yep.
Love the Denver area. You're a fan of a big Avs fan, Colorado Avalanche fan, and whatnot. Love the hockey. And then you've also obviously fallen in love with Canada. You love Calgary. You love Kelowna, and hockey has kind of brought you here, and you're at the point where you're getting your permanent residence up here as well, so you can be established in both countries and do your thing. Now, I love the story that's brought you up here because at the end of the day, without going into any specifics or anything like that, you come from a family of entrepreneurs, and those entrepreneurs have had multiple doors were open for you. If you wanted to go into one of the many number of family businesses that were around you, literally to the point where if you wanted a career for the rest of your life, we can plug you right in here like a Lego block, and we'll put you here, and we'll see where your block goes more than anything, and we can move you around or find a place for you.
For sure.
And you had that option to you basically your whole life, if I have it right.
Within reason, for sure.
Yeah. And you're one of those guys who, while you had that opportunity, said, well, no, I want to go find myself a little bit. I want to find my purpose. We talked a little bit about purpose. Well, we've talked a lot about purpose.
Yeah.
With He Changed It, that's one of the main things. You get guys in their 40s who they did paint by numbers. They did, whether it's going to the family business without being aware of themselves, whether it was going to school because they were told to, getting a job because they were told to, getting the wife, the kids, all that. And then in their 40s, they're realizing, oh, I don't know who the fuck I am. Yeah. You have been fortunate enough to kind of understand, well, wait, I want to go and find my purpose. And early on in life that happened for you. Right.
So, I mean, I was told all through high school that you got to go to college. Okay. You got to go to college to be successful.
Yep.
You gotta know algebra to be successful. Like, yeah, sure. That would be helpful.
Where is that helpful? I still don't know the fucking algebra.
Yeah.
It's like helpful.
But that's what was kind of imprinted into my mind from a very young age, actually.
Right.
Like even in grade school.
Yep.
You got to go to college.
Be well educated.
You got to be well educated to be successful. Well, I went to a year of university.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in one of my lectures one day and I was like, you know what? I can probably get a job right now if I want to. And I can probably take that and see where it goes.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I dropped out and got a job at the local ice rink as a Zamboni driver, which is a glorified janitorial position.
Yeah, well, okay, but it is glorified. Let's not put any.
It's cool driving the Zamboni.
Yeah, exactly. It is glorified.
Yeah, it's not
that thing's rad.
It's not as fun. Not as fun cleaning up after men's league at 1 a.m.
No,
that it comes with the territory. But then that snowballed. That led to me becoming a trainer for the local junior team, which I did for 3 years.
Yeah.
Which then led to a position at a semi-professional level doing the same thing.
Yep.
I found out very quickly that 16-hour days were not for me.
Yep.
And the whole not having a life outside of the rink really wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I went back to junior hockey for a couple of years. And then after those 2 years, a good friend of mine, Ken Law.
Well, this is I'm going to get to Ken. So this is not just good friend. Talk about Ken Law.
Yeah, I mean,
mentor.
Oh yeah,
father figure
for sure.
Let's talk about Ken. How does Ken come into your life, and how does that shape where young Carl is finding himself?
Yeah. So when I was working in the Western Hockey League at the time, or Western States Hockey League, I wish it was Western Hockey League, but Western States Hockey League, I was working for a team that played against a team that his son coached.
Okay.
So then after one of the seasons, his son asked me if I wanted to help him run a camp based out of Denver. And I was like, great. I live in Denver. I can make this happen. I have good connections here.
Yep.
May as well.
Yep.
So he had Ken down to help coach and run the thing. And after, I think the third year of doing that, maybe third or fourth year, Ken was kind of like, hey, when are you coming to work with us and or help us out in Soyuz? And I was like, well, I'm committed to this team for the next year in Wyoming. But the year after that, I'd love for a change. I'd love to move up. He's like, okay. And by the way, you'd be coaching. Like we're going to transition you onto the bench as a coach. I was like, great, would be great for a change. Did that for 3 years with him there.
Yeah.
And then his contract was up and very quickly got picked up by the Kelowna Chiefs. And the rest is kind of history over the past 2-3 years now.
The rest is the history that we are currently writing.
Exactly.
I want to ask about this relationship with Ken, because at the end of the day, you talk about this kid who quits university, who finds his way into hockey, that there's passion there, trying to figure out, trying to crack that nut, crack that egg as to purpose, all of that. How crucial was it that Ken came into your life when he did, and what does he mean to you?
It was a big deal for sure. But it was a very natural friendship right out of the gate. Like we talked about earlier, he means a great deal to me. He's like you said, he's a father figure for sure.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot from him, just in life.
Yep.
Where I might be a mentor to certain players that have been through programs I've worked with, he's been the same thing to me.
Does every man need that in their life?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, if you lose your father, or your, circumstances come up that make you unfortunate enough not to have a father figure, I think it's important to find somebody, if you can, and have that in your life. And I've had multiple in my life. Multiple mentors. So in that sense, I feel like I've been able to grow up and lead a semi-normal life without having my actual biological father in my life.
Yeah.
So I would say at this point I've had 3 father figures in my life, and they're all great, and they all have different perspectives on life, and they've taught me, and I've learned a lot from all of them. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about coaching? Like, are you the technical guy who says, okay, I want to show somebody how to do an amazing drop pass and a play here or a breakout of the zone?
Yeah.
When we got the power play, or like, is it technical like that? Or is it more the life philosophy stuff? Or is it more the doing drills with these?
It's more the life philosophy stuff.
That's what what's your boat?
It's more about composure with me. So.
Oh, okay.
Learning things like learning how to lose.
Yep.
And how to do it right. Learning how to win and doing it right.
What does that mean? Okay, what's learning how to lose versus learning how to win?
So keeping your composure when you win, in my opinion, means you're not rubbing it in the face of whoever you're playing against.
Yep.
Show up to the rink, show up to the ice, win, take care of your business out on the ice. Mm-hmm. But once it's over, it's over. And you can be proud of your accomplishment. Like I would never want to take a win away from anybody, or the pride that comes with that.
Of course.
But
you've been part of some very, very, very successful winning teams.
Oh yeah.
Ken is a phenomenal coach 100%. And his organizations,
he has a great record.
Come with it, has a phenomenal record.
Yeah. But there's a right way to do it.
Yeah.
So there have been times when I've been upset with ways that we've won. And it's not because I'm upset over the fact that we won. No. It's how we go about doing it. So
isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And in life, that's the whole thing. It's not just that you win, but how you win.
Yeah.
And that can be used all over the place.
Right.
And also the reciprocal is true, of course. I mean, I think we focus more on losing, I think, many times because you remember those losses, whatever it is in life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's a squandered opportunity.
Yeah.
We remember the losses more than we do the wins sometimes. And learning how to lose is really important too, right?
100%. And, I think Ken can agree with me on learning how to lose. So there are right and wrong ways to do that.
Yeah.
And there have been games where we've gotten on the bus and he's not necessarily upset with the fact that we lost. And you're talking about a guy that hates to lose more than he likes to win. And I fall kind of in that same category as well.
You hate to lose more than you like to win.
Yeah.
That is that's an awareness that I think many men, if they consider it in their lives, should at least chew on that for a minute or two.
100%.
Yeah.
And I learned that from like that saying anyway, from Ken, but it's always been there.
Yep.
And I think a lot of guys can relate to that.
Yes.
And winning's great, but I would prefer not to lose. And if you do it the right way.
Right.
Keep your composure. Don't throw a fit.
Yeah.
you know, like nobody likes a sore loser.
Yep.
And nobody likes a cocky winner.
Yep.
So if you can find that happy balance, where you can hold your composure after a loss and hold your composure after a win, and then, you know, do whatever you got to do behind closed doors,
Yeah.
With the team or whatever, you know, have a cheer or whatever it is.
Yep. Yep.
That's great. And if you win the whole thing, okay, go celebrate out on the ice.
Yeah.
But until you get there, just keep your composure. Keep it cool. I know on ice officials appreciate that more than if you can't.
Yes.
One way or the other, which can go a long way for any team in any game. Sometimes you just get screwed, but that happens. That happens anywhere. That happens anywhere in life. So
well, exactly. And I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
You talk about hockey being the illustration for life and coaching athletics being the illustration for life, and why I think there is this hunger, like the idea of there being life coaches and it being a massive, massive exploding industry right now is, I think, because we have this desire inside to be better and to be better in the best way possible. Yeah. You know, and the composure that you're talking about can be related to everything. One of my mentors once said to me, hey, Mike, listen, it's never as good as it seems and it's never as bad as it seems. Right. You know,
good way to put it too.
You think whatever it is, maybe you got a phenomenal paycheck or a raise or something like that, or financially you've had a huge, uptick. Yeah. Maybe you're about to lose your house. Yeah. But those things in reality, it's never as good as you think it's going to be, and it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. And perspective is always necessary, especially when those highs and lows that life brings assaults you. Yeah. You know, that's a really cool way. And I mean, you talk about hockey. Hockey's an emotional sport. It's the only pro sport where fucking fighting is allowed other than professional fighting. Yeah. And those fights happen. It's like, no. Don't take fighting out of the game. You listen to proponents of it because it's like, don't take fighting out of the game. These guys run at such a high level that you got to get rid of that emotion sometimes. And we've got a controlled way to do it. Right. So here you go. Like what you're talking about is a life skill that everybody needs to have. Yeah. Well, and you talk about fighting. It's another thing. Keep it out on the ice. Leave it out there. And that's, if you leave that out on the ice and you still lose, guess what? A guy like Ken Law or me, we're not going to be upset about that loss or your individual performance. Whatever but when we talk about how it applies to life, how far do you think the people that are losing their mind at the manager or the flight attendant, how far do you think they actually get in life? Do you think they ever really get what they want? Do you think they feel good about it the next day? Probably not. No, it bleeds. Like you might feel good about it in the moment. Yeah. Like just blowing off that steam. Yeah. But I think everybody's had instances where they've lost their cool with management or something like that. Yep. And it's good to get that off your chest. But then the next day you kind of wake up and you're kind of like, wow, I kind of feel like shit. Shouldn't have probably done that. I probably could have gone about that a different way. Yes. And I find you gain a lot more by keeping your cool, keeping your composure, especially if you're dealing with somebody in management or, somebody that potentially can help you. Any conflict, really. Yeah. At the end of the day, any conflict, if you can get out of that conflict without there being irreparable damage. Yeah. Or scarring or because if you have an instance like that, but you still have to deal with some of these people in any way, if it goes back to that instance and there's baggage that's there, we've done nobody any good, including yourself. Exactly. And I mean, don't get me wrong. There are people in the industry, in all industries out there that are in high level positions that are never going to help you. Yes. They just don't want to. They're going to be dicks. Yep. And that's a reality we have to deal with. Yep. And but it gives us the temptation to be a dick. It does. We see that behavior and there's a part of us that go, oh yeah, maybe I want to, maybe I should give it back to him. Maybe I should give it back to him. Or maybe that's what it takes to be successful in life. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think you and I are both in the same boat where it's like, just don't be a dick. Yeah. And so many guys need to have that self-realization, that reflection and go, man, am I being a dick here? Whether it's in that situation or it's in life in general. Yeah. There's a way to stand your ground. Yes. Without being an asshole. Yeah. You can do it. Yes. And you don't have to be really malicious about it or anything like that. No. But you can. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, if you deal with a mean manager or something like that and you keep your cool and they don't get to you,
guess who's going to stay pissed for the rest of the day and
100%.
probably the next day?
100%.
It's not going to be you. It's going to be the manager.
Well, losers focus on winners.
Yeah.
And winners focus on winning.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard that from all sorts of places. I've heard it from business coaches. I've heard it from, Conor McGregor said it in the UFC. I mean, and it's true.
Yeah.
Losers do focus on winners. And if we can keep our eye on the ball or on the puck or on the deal or on whatever it is, on the relationship,
yeah.
and we can say, okay, I just want to win this.
Yeah.
I want to come out ahead on this. And it's awareness. It all comes down to awareness. Many times people are going through the motions and they just aren't aware. You're one of the most aware guys I've ever met.
I try to be.
Well, you do a good job of it. Whenever I talk to folks, sometimes I can see if they're there just going through the motions. It appears to me, whenever I say something or ask a question or make a statement or whatever, you wait a beat or two more than most humans that I've ever run into,
right.
than many humans that I've ever run into, because you're really pondering what was said to you and you're really aware and in the moment. Was that a coaching thing? Did Ken teach you that? Or was that a tool that you brought to the table when you met him?
It's probably a bit of both.
Okay. The brother thing, when you're growing up.
Yeah, I think it's always developing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can always improve on it. So I hope I don't ever stop improving on that. I hope I continue to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say it's probably a bit of both. Like I said, I've learned a wealth, or I've obtained a wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
From Ken, and some of that does come down to that. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to talk about ambition and whatnot. I told you time is slippery. It goes by pretty quick.
It does. It gets slippery. We're having fun.
Oh man, I'm having so much fun, and I just I can't wait till you get back and we can talk about you're going back home, back to the States for a little while. And you got a couple places to go before you come back before the hockey season starts and Yellowstone starts. I'm excited to be part of watching the new season with you.
100%.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the ambition that you have, though, and how you haven't stopped. And yes, you've come up here into Canada for some hockey stuff. That's great. But you're also building roots down here.
Yep.
Now, have you always been an ambitious guy? I want to talk about your business venture that you're doing here, because I think it's really cool what you're doing. I want to pump it. I want to pump the name because I think the name is brilliant and some of the different aspects of what you're doing here to put some roots down. But have you always been ambitious?
So comes and goes, and it takes certain things to spur the ambition. So, we've been dealing with this pandemic for what, year and a half now, maybe more.
Yeah. By the time of this broadcast, a year and a half. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, when I went back, the last time I went back to Colorado, after the pandemic had started and Canada had closed its border, I wasn't able to get back up. So it really kind of lit a fire under my ass to figure out a way to get back up and stay here and not ever have to worry about going back and forth again.
Yes.
So I had to brainstorm for a while, and I have a good legal team here in Kelowna that I was in touch with, and they're like, well, we can try to get it through the hockey team. Do you have a longtime girlfriend that you're ready to marry from up here? Anything like that? That was on the table.
It was, but wasn't really on the table. It wasn't on the table. It wasn't on the table.
But then I was talking to my really good friend, Brandon Watson, and he and I were just kind of shooting the breeze one day.
Friend that you met up here in your course of living in the South Okanagan at that point.
My first year in Osoyoos, I lived with him and got to know him over the years, and we'd become really, really good friends. I would call him a brother at this point.
Yeah.
So we were brainstorming, and he was like, well, my dad and I were starting up this meat shop down in the South Similkameen.
Because they're grocery store guys that knew meat real well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Between the two of them, they have like 40 plus years of experience as meat managers.
But in the grocery business, working for somebody else.
Yeah, like working for Bilo.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Or something along those lines. So he's like, well, why don't you come on board with that? And we can look at that as your avenue in. I was like, oh, okay, let me run it by my lawyer. My lawyer comes back to me. He's like, that's a great idea. This is what we're doing. Here's the list of everything that we need, and let's get this done as fast as we can.
So what is it? What have you guys built? Because at this point here, you've built it.
You're right.
It's about to kind of kick in,
probably within the next month.
Cut the ribbon, and here we go.
Yeah.
What have you guys built?
So the structure was already there. for Brandon Watson's sister's husband's business, which runs out of the back of the property that we're based out of now. But it's a butcher shop. It's called Randalls Craft Butcher.
Craft Butcher. That's the part that I love so much. We got a lot of craft breweries up here. A craft butcher. Oh, that is such a cool thing.
And it's based in the township of Coston.
Okay, so very agricultural. Lots of livestock, lots of growing stuff. But
underserved.
Yes.
So my understanding, this is probably a little bit far from the truth, but before we were investing time and money into this to get it up and running, it was kind of if you're a rancher, it was kind of a take a number and kind of get in line basis to get your livestock processed.
Okay.
So.
And from large stuff all the way to, hey, we're a family of 4 that want to get a half a cow, a grass-fed cow, organic meat, all that kind of stuff. Like, take a number. It's going to be a while.
Well, I mean, they could get that from whatever the local grocery store is there.
Right.
But if they had their own livestock that they wanted to have processed, it was a very difficult procedure, and it took a long time.
I feel you.
Which for certain livestock, time is crucial. Like, time can be a big factor. If you have a cow that, say, gets injured and it's time to harvest, and it's a get in line, take a ticket sort of system, you might lose out on that product. And cows are expensive.
So there's a big opportunity here. There's a business opportunity here.
There was.
Never mind, getting father and son working out of the grocery store, working together, building their own deal. There's a big business opportunity.
Oh yeah, we'll be too busy, from what I hear anyway. I mean, I'm not cutting any of the meat.
No,
for good reason. But Brandon and his dad, they are gonna have their hands full, in a good way, when we open.
Okay. Is there a website, first and foremost, especially anybody in Western Canada who's really into high quality meat and things like this? We're talking, it's a craft butcher. What's the website? How do we?
So it's not up and running yet.
Okay.
But we are very close to that being up and running as well.
Okay. Well, we'll pump that out as soon as we have that figured out. We'll make sure it's not like you're not going to come back. You're a friend if he changed it. I'll
be back.
you're our boy. And I mean, you're remember the family, and
appreciate that.
We'll talk more about that later on as things unfold. And there's evolution happening here, folks. We'll talk about that. But what's the name of the business again? And
it's Randalls Craft Butcher.
Randalls Craft Butcher.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And just to get back to the whole process of why I did that. Basically what that'll allow me to do now, I'm on a work visa now. After a certain amount of time on that work visa, I'm eligible for permanent residency.
There we go.
And then once I get that, then I can work anywhere. I don't just have to work for the business. I can work, full time for a team or something like that as well, as long as I have the time to do that, and they don't need.
All restraints are off at that point.
As far as the government's concerned. But then after 5 years of maintaining that, I'll be eligible for dual, and that's something that I still kind of have to wrap my head around. And I think that's a bit more of a process than everything we've done so far, and getting my permanent residency combined. So that's kind of long-term goal at this point.
I feel you. I want to go back to the genesis of what started the Randalls Craft Butcher. I at the end of the day, another ism that I've gotten from my mentors is average folks focus on the problem.
Right.
Whereas champions or winners focus on the solution.
Right.
I look to this. You see a business opportunity, and I mean, business, and you've got a pretty awesome mind for that and background for that, where you understand, oh, this is a really good business opportunity, that sort of thing. But it all stemmed from the idea of, I need to solve a problem. I need to find a way to get up here. And how important is it in your mind, from Carl Poole's perspective, how important is it to go from, I've got a problem, I just need to shift right to solution mode?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
I stumped you.
You did.
No, I didn't. It's a big question. Like at the end of the day, some folks, when they focus on the problem so much, That's where they get wrapped around.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the losers focus on winners thing a little bit, right?
Right.
Whereas at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, no, what's the solution? How do we find the solution? That's something that you attract to immediately. You're one of those guys where you had to think about it for a second here. Yeah. I think, honestly, the reason that you had to think about it is I don't think you spend hardly any time focusing on the problem.
No.
I think your instinct is to go to the solution.
Yeah. And I wasn't, I understand the reasoning for borders being shut down and travel being shut down and all that. But I wasn't going to let that be a problem for me. I was determined not to let it be a problem. And not because I was trying to, sneak into the country or anything
not
like
at
that.
All.
It's because I do want to live here.
Yeah.
I like living in Kelowna. I like living in the Okanagan. I would love to buy property here someday. That'd be great. But as great as Denver is, and I still have family there.
Oh yeah.
There's not a lot for me there anymore. I shouldn't say there's not a lot. My mom's there, and my brother and his wife and their son is there.
But your purpose is taking you down a different path.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I had been playing with the idea of applying for permanent residency well before the pandemic ever hit.
Right.
But that's where you kind of see one of the silver linings of the pandemic. As terrible as it's been, it forced me to figure out the solution. Like you said, like go straight to how am I going to get back? How am I going to figure out the solution? And how am I going to fix this problem so that it never happens again?
Yes.
So I'd been thinking about it for probably 5 years before that, but it took me that amount of time and the pandemic to really decide, okay, this is where I want to be. Yes. This is where I want to live at least for, the next 10 years of my life.
Yeah.
And maybe longer. I mean, you never know. It could settle down, have kids at some point. And then,
as you've said, your purpose is always evolving. Yeah. You said that to me, earlier, your purpose is always evolving.
Yeah.
But you're always aware, looking for it.
Yep.
And you want to be ready for it.
Well, and I don't turn it away. It's like, I really try not to. Like, have you ever seen that movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't just say yes to everything.
Absolutely.
But I try not to say no to everything as well.
Right. So,
and it's good to approach new adventures and new opportunities that you might not have been comfortable with initially.
Yeah.
I think that's healthy. I think it's good to challenge yourself like that. So I try to, as much as I can, and be open to meeting new people and doing new things.
Yeah,
that sort of stuff.
I'm gonna exploit our friendship just a little bit here, just to out you on something. This is something that stretched your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're fucking awesome. You're fantastic at this. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah.
I know that you, again, we should have done it 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, but you were wrapping your head around it and saying, okay. I finally got a text from you saying, okay, I'm ready.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, getting on a podcast, it is a little nerve wracking. I won't deny that. And I think anybody that's been on can appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
But I actually have been busy this summer. I haven't been around.
I know. You are. We're all busy.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's funny how busy people end up being friends with busy people and whatnot, because we're all grinding. We're all going for it. We're all thinking about these things. And I just, I want to sum up one of the things you said earlier and tie it to, again, you didn't just take the easy way into the country,
right?
Marry a girl. Let's just use that as the example, right? That's the easy. Oh, marry a girl. Yeah. Just boom. Then you're in, just like that. It's just like, we want to win the right way.
Yeah.
I want to do it the right way.
Yep.
And the right way turns out it's going to end up being profitable, putting some shekels in your pocket.
Yep.
It helps a father and a son develop a business and accomplish a lifelong dream, which, by the way, this is where, if Carl's going to sell himself short, this is where he sells himself. This is a guy who likes to help people achieve their dreams. And I mean, I got all sorts of different stories that we can talk about that. Maybe another day we will talk about that. Batman. We'll talk about some of these things a little bit. But at the end of the day, I just appreciate you opening up a little bit and talking about this, because there are guys out there who aren't aware.
Right.
They're not even looking for the person. Never mind the determination. I love that word, determination, to make your purpose happen.
Right.
And to not just let it fall into the background.
Right.
And to not just ignore it.
Right.
And I just appreciate how proactive you are with that. You're a phenomenal example with that. And our time is, like I said, it's slippery when we do this.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful, though, And I mean, I talk about how excited I am when I do these things.
Yep.
I'm really grateful that I get a dynamic and a relationship with you outside of just having Carl sit down and do an interview with me. I'm so grateful you're in my life.
Yep. The feeling is mutual.
Oh,
yep. 100%.
It's meant to be. It was
Yeah.
meant to be that our paths crossed. And I'm excited for the things that we're going to do together in the future.
For sure.
But I'm excited for where we're at. And I'm fucking excited for Yellowstone.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
John Dutton's the man.
Oh, yeah. Kevin Costner is the man.
Absolutely. And one day we'll have him on this podcast. We're gonna,
Hopefully.
that's I love that you're a big thinker, and that's the last thing I'll say about you.
Yeah.
I love how big you think. That was one of your first when you saw He Changed It and what we're doing. You're like, hey, when we're getting Costner on the podcast.
Yeah,
that was one of the first. I love that you think that way because I think we're similar.
Yeah.
Carl, with all of my heart, all of our team's heart, thank you for who you are. Thank you for hooking us up with the people that you have for podcasts and beyond. And I just, we're really grateful to have you around. And thank you for being vulnerable today.
Of course.
To open up.
Thank you for
some
having
pretty
me.
personal things.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
More,
this is
more to come in the future.
fucking right.
Yeah.
Fucking right.
Yeah.
That's how fast they go. Thank you so much for viewing, listening to, sharing, subscribing to HeCast. It is such an awesome, awesome thing that we're doing here. We feel it. We're hearing responses from people. We know that we're on the right path. And like I say, every week we are just getting started. If you haven't downloaded HeChanged It yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Go grab it, throw it on your device, sign up. Check out some of the resources that are coming. There's some really neat things that are in the pipe. And yeah, that's another episode of HeCast, the official podcast of HeChanged It. My name is Mike Chisholm. Go change something.